Okay, so we are live again. I'm trying to bring on a new guest. We will see how this works. I'm just trying to get everybody hooked up so that we can all be a part of this new thing we got going on. Hey. Okay, let's see. I sent the link. Let's see. I hope everyone is doing great out there. And I send blessings and prayers for patience and strength to all of the caregivers out there, since this is National Caregivers Month. And let's see if we can get our guests in here. So let's check it out. Okay, I sent the link. If there's anyone else who would like to be a part of this conversation as far as being a caregiver currently, or if you were a caregiver and your life after being a caregiver, I'm going to send the link to you. Well, actually, I'm going to put it in Facebook, and I'm going to put it. It's already, well, I'm not sure about that. Let's see. Let's get this link. Let's get this party started. I need to have some music in the background or something. Okay, copy. We're going to put it on Facebook. Let's get this party started on Facebook. Put it in the comments. So if anyone wants to get on this live stream to talk about being a caregiver, what was your experience? Just let me know. Just hit the link and we can talk about it. My journey as a caregiver started in 2012. And initially, my mom, she was, I would stay during the week and then leave on the weekends, because she was still mobile and doing what she could do. But then she started falling a lot. And I'm getting a lot of texts. So she started falling. So eventually what started happening is that her mobility became less. And what I had to start doing was actually, on being an only child, I would have to, and I was working in Fort Belvoir, Virginia. So I had to get up. My hours, I had to be at work at 6:30. So I'm coming from DC going to Fort Belvoir, and then I'm driving. So I had to get up around 4:30 and I would get myself together, but then I also would get my mother up, and she could use a walker, walk to the living room and or the dining room. And so she would sit in the chair, and I made it as comfortable as I could. This was before I had got one of those recliners. So I made it as comfortable as I could. And I would prepare her breakfast and I would prepare her lunch and keep it right there beside her. And she, and I would bring out the, what you call it? The pot, the bedside commode. That's what you call it. So I would bring that as well because she could maneuver when it was close to her. So all of that was right there. So I would do that every morning. I did that for about 2.5 weeks. And then when I would come home, I would give her, prepare dinner. Then I would help her, get ready for bed later on. And so I did that for about 2.5 weeks. And with that commute, and also with my job, I was a PEBLO, which is the Physical Evaluation Board Liaison Officer. With all of that, and I was dealing with soldiers who were transitioning out of, I was dealing with soldiers who was transitioning out of the Army. So one moment, let me see if I can help my guests. Yes? Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay. So you don't have Chrome?
Yeah, it says let's check your camera and mic. So the mic is working because the little thing is going up and down as I talk.
Okay. So does it says enter broadcast?
Already what past? Oh, wait a minute. It says display name and then it says enter broadcast studio.
Okay. So if you want to type your name or a nickname or whatever, you can type that in and then enter the studio. Then hit enter studio and I should see you pop up in my what they call back office or okay. I see that you're trying to. It says devices. Okay. Okay. I think I have you. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. Oh, so let me hang up on you.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's
So
hang
now,
up.
okay, I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay. Welcome, Ladybyrd.
Thank you, Miss Hill, for having me.
Yeah. So basically, I do you have something else on or you're? I hear echo. Is that you or me?
I don't hear echo on my end.
Hello. Okay. I think it's gone. Okay. So I had started talking about how my journey has started off as a caregiver and how when I it was in 2012 and that how for about 2.5 weeks my journey of setting my mom up. Yeah, there's some feedback from somewhere. I don't know what that is. Okay. I don't have my extra because at first I thought I had my extra something. Let me close up some of these windows. Do you have anything else on?
No, just my Gmail is open. Everything else is closed.
Okay. Hmm. I don't know what the feedback is from. But yeah, so that's what I was talking about. And
When you
how
say feedback, you hear yourself talking or
no uh, yeah, I do. I hear myself talking. I don't know. We're going to get this thing right. Okay. It says Okay, let me try something. I'm gonna try something. No. Okay, let me keep talking and maybe it'll just go away. Because do you hear the feedback?
No, I hear you loud and clear. I don't hear any feedback.
Okay, so anyone out there just maybe listening, do you all hear feedback? It looked like it's just you and me on here. But so yeah, I was just talking about how I actually for 2.5 weeks, what I needed to do to assist my mom. She still was and on a she still was there as far as having the ability to be mobile, but I had to assist her in a lot of things. So as I was saying, I was waking up at 4:30, getting myself together, going to setting her up with her breakfast, her lunch, bringing her bedside commode to the dining room area, kind of cornered, so that she could have access to it. Then when I got home from work after my drive, and that's where I developed road rage. I developed some serious road rage driving back and forth to Fort Belvoir. And I'm just not a long distance driver anyway. And to me that was kind of long distance. But I was doing that, and I say after the 2.5 weeks, I didn't realize how I was it was overwhelming because where I worked as a physical evaluation board liaison officer, dealing with the soldiers, and especially so many soldiers that have so many issues, and then they're being medically boarded out of the Army. It's like you listening to their stories, their war stories, and all of that, and knowing that some of them that have dedicated their life to this, and this is all they know, and now they are about to be um, let go, basically. And so it's a lot to hear their stories, to help them, and then you're fighting for them so they can get what they deserve. It's, is a package from, the VA as well as from the Army. So and sometimes you're fighting with the doctors and everyone, and even their own command, you're fighting with them so that they can get what they deserve. So all of that, including, taking care of my mom those early hours, and then kind of listening out for her, because during this time I had not purchased the child things, what you call them, monitors, the baby monitors. I hadn't purchased the baby monitors, so I was kind of carefully listening at nighttime, because if she got up to use the restroom, her bedside commode, I didn't want her to fall. So I needed to actually listen out for her. So I really wasn't even getting a lot of sleep. And so after 2.5 weeks, I really was like a cuckoo for Cocoa Pops. And not like crazy, but I was just drained. I was like totally, oh my gosh, I didn't know whether I was coming or going. And when I realized that for sure is when I had to get a money order I had to do a Western Union for someone, and I gave the lady an extra $100. I went into a Safeway. My mother wanted Chinese food for dinner on this day, and so I said, okay. In Virginia, there was a place where I could get the Western Union at a Safeway and the Chinese food in the same little strip mall. So I ordered the Chinese food, went to the Safeway, did the Western Union. Didn't realize at that time, but I had left her my driver's license as well as gave her extra $100. Then I went to the food, picked that up. Then I get a call from the person I did the Western Union for, and they were like, "You left your driver's license in the Safeway." They just called me because their name was on the Western Union thing, and they said, And I believe you gave the lady too much money. So that's when I just stopped and looked in the sky and said, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. God, I am truly overwhelmed. So I went back to the Safeway. The lady had given, she said, you gave me, I thank God she was honest. She said, you gave me $100 more and here's your driver's license. So I just went and I just sat in the car and I started to cry because I was like, oh my God, how much longer can I continue this? Because really it was just becoming too much, the drive, the commute, the job. And, I was during the day, I still was worried about my mom, always in the back of my mind, making sure, oh my God, am I going to get a call? I gave her the phone so that, if there was any issue, she could call me. So I recall I was like, God, I don't know what to do. And something, I don't know. I just said, I need help. She lives in DC. There are a lot of resources for the elderly. So I found out about the program for the elderly that you can apply for and see if she was eligible to apply for some aids, a health aid, so it's, at least if there's somebody else there with her during the day, and that could give me some relief, and that's when I called the Department of Health and Human Services in DC. And I must have sounded like I was stressed to the max or in desperate need. I don't know. But the gentleman that I spoke with, his name was James. And he said, I could send you a list of all of the participating home health aid agencies, but I think you need to get connected quickly. And the top ones, and he gave me VMT. I called them and the gentleman was like, he heard my voice and he prayed for me. The man that was over VMT, he just prayed for me and he said, okay, God is saying help is on the way. Now, I hadn't even really got out everything that I was going through. And so I was like, thank you. So he said, all you need to do is give me this information. I provided him with that information. He sent over, I guess she was a case manager nurse for us to sign the paperwork. And in 2 days, my mother had got approved for 6 hours. So the way I set it up was that I was able to give the person the front door entrance key and I left the other door open because at that time I did not give her a key to our actual apartment. So that's how she would get in because, I still left early, but I gave my mother the cordless phone in case she needed me before the person arrived. Then she would call me when the person arrived and, they would take her from there. And at least the lady was there for 6 hours. So at least for about 6 hours, I had some relief that someone else was there with her. So that went on for about a year. Then they gave her 2 more hours after when it was time for recertification. And then I had to let the lady that she was, that was there, I had to let her go. That's another thing when you have home health aides. Sometimes you get a great match and initially the lady seemed to work out pretty well. But then, my mother let me know because, my mother needed to walk around. I felt comfortable with someone else there with her walking with her walker, getting some exercise in. So when she would walk up and down the hall, and initially the aide was walking down the hall with her. But then my mother told me, one day she just told me the lady sits in the doorway. She pulls up a chair and sits in the apartment doorway and watches my mother walk down the hall and walk back. And I'm like, hold up. First of all, if my mother's all the way down the hall, what you going to do? Jump up, run and help her versus being beside her to avoid her from falling. So then I was like, okay. So I brought that to lady's attention. Then I decided to come home early one day, and the lady was sitting on the couch and she had a notepad and she was watching the I guess you call it the gospel channel or the channel, like the word channel, the word network, where all, the lineup, TD Jakes, all those people. So she has started, having a great time and taking notes and watching that channel all day. And so she would delay her response to my mom when my mom needed something. And a couple of times my mother would be on the phone with me and she would call the lady's name and the lady was acting like she couldn't hear her. So then I found out, okay, this isn't going to work out. So I needed to switch it up. I was like, okay, I called the agency. I informed them of the issues and I said I would like a replacement. Now, the trip part about it is that about this time, I had given the lady the keys to the apartment. So now, after the lady finds out that I wanted a replacement, I'm going through this back and forth with her with returning the keys. So it was quite interesting because this was a older lady, okay, and it got a little heated, but eventually even VMT was like, well, go and file a report with the police if she doesn't return the keys. So I said, I want her to return the keys to you all and I will come and get them. I did eventually change in the bottom lock because it was just too weird as far as her with the key issue. So I didn't know if she made a duplicate key. I didn't know, but I just know I said, let me change the bottom lock on our apartment. So that's what I did. And that's when we did get a replacement and her name was Maserat. And I'm telling you, she was with my mom until the end. And that was her first, she was just during the week for 8 hours. And then on the weekends, because I had my nonprofit, she wanted to know if she could do some additional hours. Well, my mother wasn't approved for additional hours. So I started paying for her to be with her, sit with her on a Saturday for a couple of hours, and then sometimes on a Sunday. So I was paying out of my pocket to supplement, her care for those Saturdays and Sundays that I needed to do things for my nonprofit. So that went on for a minute, but then my mother started declining a little more. And so they gave her 12 hours. No, they gave her 8 hours. Then they added the weekend. So she was getting 8 hours Monday through Sunday, Sunday through Saturday. So 7 days a week, she was getting 8 hours. Then about a year after that, I would say like in 2014 is when 2015 is when they gave her 16 hours, 7 days a week. And that was 2017 when they gave her 16 hours. Because again, even though we had the 8 hours for 7 days, of course, I was the caregiver through the night. And what began to happen in 2014, I remember I was discussing how I'm really not sleeping during the night because I'm kind of listening out for my mom because, I didn't have the baby monitors. And a gentleman at my job, he said, well, why don't you get baby monitors? I never thought of that. And so I got the baby monitor and I set one by her bed and by my bed. So that way I turned it up loud enough. So if I did really drift off into a sleep, that would wake me up. So I became a light sleeper, but I was getting a little more sleep when the baby monitors came. So that's something that, whoever is the caregiver that you should consider if the person you're caring for is in one room and you need to kind of listen in. The baby monitors really helped out during the nighttime. But like I said, for DC, there are a lot of resources for the elderly, if you need assistance in DC. And you can hit me up through Messenger or whatever, if you need more detail on what are the services available to the elderly that can assist you as a caregiver if they need home health aid assistance. Now, Ladybyrd, I'm going to stop there because I before I go into other parts or leading up to when my mother transitioned. But so I'm stopping off around 2017. One good thing about it is that Maserat came on board. Then when we got to 16 hours, it was Maserat and Rachel. Her name was Rachel. She was Maserat was Monday through Friday, the daytime. Raquel was Monday through Friday, the evening till about the nighttime. And then we had the weekend Miss Casa Saturday and Sunday. And she did 32 hours that weekend. So those are the three women that really helped me out. And of course, when they took off or went on vacation, then we had the subs, and that is a whole nother story when you have the subs. Now, Ladybyrd, you had become a caregiver. You assisted your mom, your brother, as well as more recently your son. Would you like
Yes,
to share?
yeah, that's correct. My mom, she passed in 2017, but she was the caregiver for my brother who lived with her his entire life because he was mentally challenged.
Mhm.
And so over the years, I would assist both of them in whatever they needed, grocery shopping, picking up medicine, taking to doctor's appointments. And so once my mom passed in 2017, we as a family, my siblings and I, we spoke with our brother, and he said he wanted to stay in the senior building where they resided. So we were able to get him into a one-bedroom apartment in the same senior building. That way, he was able to continue to be in an environment that he was familiar with. And then we applied for the home health aid through Maryland. And initially, we were only granted 4 hours.
Mhm.
And about a few months later, we petitioned for additional hours, and we had to go to Rockville to the main building where they do that type of thing and plead our case for additional hours. So we were granted an additional 4 hours, so that brought it up to 8
Okay,
hours.
so for Maryland, you all had to. So did he have a case manager to assess him and submit the request, and that's why you had to appeal?
No, he didn't have a case manager. I don't know. Well, my mom was always resistant to having any type of home health aid come in, so
Okay.
that part was never really established for my brother. And I didn't, I felt like I was advocating on his behalf, and I could do just as much as a case manager, I guess. That's what I was thinking. Um, and I did all of the paperwork, and the supervisor for the home health aide, she just completed her section to say what the aides were going to do for the additional 4 hours. And like I said, we went to Rockville and um, pleaded our case, and maybe a week later, we got a letter stating that the hours had been granted. So But that still left, the evening hours. So my other brother, and my other siblings, we would take turns, checking on my brother Joe and making sure he had everything he needed.
Mm-hmm.
So, sadly to say, we did all we could for our brother. And when the COVID came into the United States, he contracted it and he passed away in May of this year. So I'm still grieving his loss and
Yeah.
find it, kind of difficult to talk about um, right now because I know that we did all that we could to care for him and
Mm-hmm.
provide for all of his needs. And for this to have happened, it's really made me angry. So
Right.
I have a lot of emotions that I'm dealing with right now in regards to that. Um, so, and like you said, my son's he recently had a stroke, and so now I'm the primary caregiver for him. But he's mobile. The type of stroke he had, it affected his speech. So um, that's very challenging for me right now. But by the grace of God, we'll take it one day at a time and do what we can do to the best of our ability.
Definitely, definitely. And it is a challenge for certain, um, because you are doing the best you can, and it takes a lot out of you.
Yeah, it takes a lot, and you hear a lot now about self care,
Mm-hmm.
but you really have to focus on that because as a mom, you always want to do for your child first before you do for yourself, you know.
Right, right.
So I'm trying to set aside time now for self care. Um, and like I said, it's still challenging, but I'm working on that. But I was just getting over my mom,
Mm-hmm.
not getting over it, but not having as many bad days after her passing, and then after I was getting myself together and trying to move forward in life and hang out with my girlfriends and all of that, then my son had his stroke. So at
Yeah.
that point, like, my God, why has, because it was just too much, and
Yes.
going to the hospital every day and then going to the rehab every day. And even when my brother Joe, when he would get sick, I would go to the hospital, and spend 4 or 5 hours
Hello. I don't know what happened. Oh, something happened. Okay, you may have to come back in. You may have to go out and come back in. Okay, yeah, you may have to go out and come back in. Can you hear me? Okay, let me try. Hello? Hello? You may have to go out and come back in. Let me try to text her. Okay. 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 So we was hearing about Ladybyrd, and as she stated, she had to go through an appeal process to get more hours for her brother, so that he could have a home health aide more hours. Now, as far as with my mom, the VMT actually did the paperwork, but they did send it to a physician who had to do a care plan, and that had to be submitted. And sometimes I had to be the intermediary as far as pushing it and making sure that it got corrected, and then the agency say, oh, we didn't get it, but they actually got it. It would be back and forth. So you had to be an advocate on so many levels. Okay, you're back.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes. So you were talking about how you had started trying to do the self-care, and then your son had the stroke, and he was like, oh my gosh, it's a lot.
Yeah, and I wanted to make reference to when my brother was in the hospital, and I would go back and forth to see him, and he would go from the hospital to the rehab. And this happened a couple of times back in 2018. And I remember going to the hospital and going up to the floor where he was.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden I realized, oh, he's not here in the hospital anymore. He's over at the rehab.
Wow.
And I was like, that's when I knew, that it had been a lot on me. So
Mm-hmm.
you really, really need a support system, when you're taking care of a loved one, Um,
Definitely.
I know they have what they call
Mm-hmm.
respite um, care, and if you want to go away for a week, um, they will provide someone to come in and care for your loved one. So that's what I would highly recommend
Mm-hmm.
for people to utilize. We really didn't need it because, like I said, it's several siblings, and we would all take turns trying to do our best to take care of my brother.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely the respite. Now I recall one thing. Delmarva did come into our home to reassess my mom. And I do recall at one point the gentleman asking me, because they were even going to attempt to give me 24-hour care. There was already 3 people on my mom's team, and that would have added a 4th person who would have been there with us during the nighttime. Because he said, he felt that I needed a break, but I just couldn't. I felt that would have just been too much, because in dealing with subs, when they have to send a replacement when someone calls in, that's stressful enough, because you have to, they need to do, and so sometimes it's just not worth it. And then I just felt adding an additional person just was going to be too much, so I would decline that. But one thing I can say is my mother's weekend aide, Miss Casa, she herself recognized that I needed a break. And so she had volunteered to stay overnight with my mom once a month. And then I remember at least on 2 occasions, you gave me a break and stay with my mom. Was it 2 or more?
It was 2.
It was 2. Okay, 2 occasions I recall you stayed with my mom. That helped me out. And definitely the neighbors of Riggs Park, Mr. and Mrs. Jenkins, they helped me during the day. Sometimes when there was a new aide and my mom didn't feel comfortable and she called me and I'm at work, I could call on Mr. Jenkins or Miss Jenkins just to kind of check in, so that the aide would know that there's somebody, kind of watching over them. And I also did get that camera, the little camera you can set up. And that's when I saw one aide who just went to sleep. I mean, she just was zonked out, and my mother was sitting there calling her, and I could see. And finally, I just called the phone, and that woke her up. And I said, I believe, I didn't let her know that the camera caught her. I just said, I believe my mom was calling you while I was talking to her on the phone and you didn't answer. And she told me she wasn't asleep. So, you go through those times, and, on a couple of times I did have to leave work because it just was not working out with the aide. I do recall one time a young girl had came on a Saturday. I had to go and take care of some business in Laurel, Maryland. Then the girl calls me and tells me that my mother has fallen out the chair. And I'm hearing my mother, and my mother is like, "Oh, Jesus," she on the phone. And I'm like, "Oh, God." So I had to turn around, get back. Unfortunately, Mr. Jenkins was not there in his home at that moment, but by the time maybe I was halfway there, he had called me back and he had got over there. And so I had told the girl prior to Mr. Jenkins getting over there to just call 911, and they did come and help get my mother back into the chair. And at this time I had got her a recliner, and she just kind of, I guess, I don't know what happened. The girl said that she slid out of the recliner. I still haven't figured that one out. But you do, like you said, just like they say, it takes a village to raise. It really takes a village to raise kids. It kind of almost takes a village to help you as a caregiver, because you need that support. You really do. You really need some type of support. And it's unfortunate, those that are kind of like the sandwich generation. That sandwich generation are those who have kids as well as elderly parents or a parent or a loved one that they are taking care of. They're sandwiched. And it's very difficult. I can't even imagine that, because I know all that I had to deal with as far as taking care of my mom and like being on call, because your life stops. I mean, anything, my nonprofit, I just had to stop everything. We used to participate in the NBC4 Health and Fitness Expo, and we were one of those ones that people always looked for. They looked for our booth, and I just had to stop it because I couldn't do it. And so for I guess about 4 or 5 years, Women of Virtue, I just made sure that we always updated our information for the IRS and for Maryland so that we would still be active. But there really wasn't much that I could do because my mom took precedence over everything. And I mean, so you really don't have time for any type of relationships. And if you don't have a person that understands that becomes an issue. That, if you want to see me, you're going to have to be coming here because this is where I am with my mom. And, it wasn't a lot of free time to really do a lot of activities. And like you said, that's self-care.
Yes.
And I really didn't I don't want to say I didn't feel like I deserved self-care. It's just that I didn't feel I had the time to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
you don't realize that's what you really and truly need. I knew when I was like burnt out, I knew that I needed help. You know, like I said, during that time when I was when I gave the lady the extra money and I left my driver's license with her. And I knew at that time I needed help. And God definitely heard my cry and sent help. But you're still the primary caregiver, even if you do have the home health aides. And so you still, this is your life. And you have to come up with, you don't realize that becomes your new normal, being a caregiver. But then after the person you were caring for transitions, then you have to come up with a whole new normal. And it's very difficult to go back to the before caregiver now that you're an after caregiver. It's kind of, it's like that chapter has gone before being a caregiver, then taking on this new chapter and the new normal of being a caregiver. And now it's like a whole nother scene and chapter you have to undertake and be a part of now as after caregiving.
Yeah,
So
I think that with that part of your life, you're growing, you're learning,
mhm,
and you're not the same person that you used to be anymore.
no,
So we can't go back to the way things were.
definitely not. Definitely not. And then after, you know, being that caregiver and dealing on top of dealing with the loss, it's a lot. It's a lot. And you know, and me myself, you know, because I was always considered the strong one, and I'm going to help you do this, and I'm the resourceful one. I help you do this. I help this person, that person, and even my family members was like, "Oh, well, you've always been the strong one that we've come to." Well, this is a lot. I never had lost my mom before, and I had never been a caregiver before this. So all those factors, like you said, make you a different person. And I had to realize too, even though I wanted to put on a strong front because I felt like nobody really understands, and because they've always looked to me as the strong person, who can I really lean on? And I did decide that I was going to get some counseling. I sought some counseling because I felt like I was just going through the motions and I was kind of like stuck. I was like just existing. That's really how I felt. I was just existing. I wasn't living. So I myself thought some therapy so that I can try to at least get back on track in some sense, some semblance to, you know, working towards living again, because your life is on hold. Your life is on hold when you become a caregiver. You may still be working, but you are kind of like you're mechanical. You're kind of like just going through the motions, and your focus and primary, your primary focus, I guess I should say, and your primary responsibility becomes that person. And so that's your
Yeah, I
life.
remember having to, turn down a lot of invitations to do this, and I just told people my social life is on hold right now, and
Yes.
that's just the way it is. I hope you
Yep.
don't get offended or whatever, but I
Hmm.
just can't do it. I can't.
You can't. And you would hope that people would understand, but it kind of shocked me that some people didn't. And some people just didn't I don't want to say care. I get it's like they still felt that you could still do the things that you used to be able to do. But no, that's not happening. I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. I don't even have the mental capacity or the emotional capacity to do anything outside of what I'm doing right here, right now for my mother.
Yeah,
That,
that's
you know,
true.
and some people, I mean, and trying to definitely maintain my job, keep my job, but some people just did not understand that. It's like, oh, well, you was able to do this, this, this. Well, no, now I cannot. My life has changed. And some people weren't able to accept that. I mean, you have no choice but to accept it as the caregiver. I mean, people
Right.
have choices because some people won't do whatever, but there was no choice for me. This
I
is my
know they,
mom.
the senior citizens in the building where my mom and my brother lived, and after
Hmm.
my mom passed, um, I would encounter some of the ladies there, and they would say, "Oh, your mother would be so happy and proud, the way that you all are taking care of your brother."
Hmm.
They would just um, compliment us. She said, because a lot of people here um, are lonely, and their family
Mm.
members don't see them.
Wow,
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
really sad.
yeah. So you have those people who cannot, they're just not built to take care of people. And
True.
so their loved ones suffer for that. If somebody else doesn't step in, like you say, the village, you need a village. So, but
Yes,
some people just don't have the capacity to care for another human the way that you and I have cared for our loved ones. Um,
that is true. That is a good point too, because I even think some of the fights that I had to go, do or push forward or um, advocate for my mom when it came to her doctors, when it came to the agency. Even sometimes I had to be the advocate for my mom's health aides because the agency was doing something crazy. And I would just think, wow, those who didn't have an advocate or someone fighting for them, I can't even imagine how they are pushing forward, or getting things done because it's a lot when you all had to do the appeal, when you had to do the paperwork. I mean, that takes a lot of time, effort, mental strength, everything.
I was set on getting him more hours, and so I had done a lot of research.
Hmm.
And as they were trying to like say, well, no, he's not qualified, I would come back, well, section so and so of section so and so of this says so and so and so and so. And the
Hmm.
lady looked at me and said, "Are you a lawyer?" I'm like,
You become one.
"Come on, yeah."
You become a lot of things, And anytime my mom went in the hospital and she was inpatient, I stayed in there with her because my mom had like mild dementia. It wasn't. I mean, she could tell you when somebody went right. I mean, or whatever. But I just because I remember one time they didn't allow me to stay in the room with her, and so I was staying in the uh, lounge area, or whatever. And one time I slept in the car, and when I came back during visiting hours that morning, my mom and her roommate was telling me how the nurse was in there almost fighting another nurse. I mean, they almost came to blows, and they was doing it right in front of them, and they still never attended to my mom, which was why the nurse was in there. And
Yeah.
so, I went to the head nurse and I was like, I understand this happened. And they was like, oh, yes, that would never happen again. But, come on now. So after that, I didn't care what they said. Either they was going to drag me out of there or what. I was going to remain in that room and sleep in there with my mom. She has been in there 2 and 3 days, and I was right in there. And there were times that her aide came and gave me a break, and they didn't even get paid for that. But they came and gave me a break so I can go home, take a shower, and even go to work. And then my job would let me telework because I could, log in using the internet from that hospital. So a lot of times, I would be working from the hospital, working, my job, but I was determined after that experience she had that I was going to be staying with her overnight. And, I miss my mom tremendously, but I am grateful to God that she is in a better place and she is not having to deal with this COVID pandemic, because I would probably be in jail or somewhere, because where they're saying they're not letting people even come into, the hospital with people, and you have to just drop them off at the ER and, probably call them, use FaceTime. No. Would not have worked with this sister right here. This daughter, they would have probably arrested me or something, because I was going to be up in there. So
Yeah.
That's just one thing that I just look at as a positive, even though I miss my mom, but that she didn't have to deal with none of this craziness that's going on here in this here United States of America at this point in time.
Yeah, I like I said, I still haven't gotten used to my brother not being here, and it is a terrible experience. I would not wish it on anyone. I if my last words to him as they were rolling him out on the stretcher was, Joe, as soon as you can have visitors, I'll be up there to see you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he shook his head, and that was the last I saw him or talked to him.
Because he
And
passed away from COVID, correct?
yeah, uh-huh. Yeah.
And they wouldn't allow y'all there.
No, you couldn't go in the hospital. You could only do the video thing. And yeah, I can't really talk about it a
Yeah.
lot right now because it still
Yeah.
hurts.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. But yeah, it's this, I don't know. You just feel like this whole thing, we're in a twilight zone. Um, we've in this reality show that nobody signed up for, and it's not funny. I mean, this whole thing, and all we could do is just pray and believe that God is in control and that good will prevail, and God's mercy and grace is just upon us all.
Yeah. Yeah.
His mercy and grace, because this is something else. This is really something else that
Yeah.
we are encountering here.
And I think the program, I mean, what you're doing, it will, once it gets out into the public, you'll get a lot of calls because it's a lot of people that have been put in a position to care for loved ones now. Even
Mm-hmm.
if someone recovers from the disease, um, they still have some long-term effects, which
Yes.
they're talking about. And they're not talking about it right now, but people who recover, they don't go back to their normal selves. Most people still have some type of ailment. So
Mm-hmm.
they're going to need some home health aid, because it affects your lungs. So
Yeah.
get out of breath easily, and they're going to need help. So I think over the next few months, people will be searching for um, conversations on caregiving, and so I think you're doing a great thing by hosting this platform for caregiving.
Yeah. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. I know eventually um, women of virtue will come back, and it'll be a little different too, because I'm different. I'm in a different place now, and a different charge has been placed on me. So I know that some of the things that we're going to deal with is still about disparities. It's still about healthcare disparities. And that was one of the things that Women of Virtue focused on. So I do know that we'll be able to go down that road again, but it will be about, caregiving, and even the disparities within the caregiving arena. There are those disparities. If you don't have an advocate to fight for you, especially African Americans, it's an issue. Because generally, white America, they have already set up long-term care. They can afford long-term care. They're in some of these homes, nursing homes that are actually homes where maybe only 6 or 7 there, so they can get better care, better assistance, or they can afford 24-hour nurses for their, you know what I'm saying, if the person is at home. So it's a lot to take on, and you do need to be able to navigate through the systems, and there are a lot of layers. So I'm just hoping that as people live longer now, that I can assist, or, like you said, have this platform for people to come and share, and, we can just help each other out, no matter what stage in this caregiving we are in. So, but I appreciate you coming and sharing your story. And I know we'll be able to have you come back again when you're, ready to talk about more about your brother, and so we could just really reach out and help people. This is something that is on my heart heavy, because I know that there is a need out there for people to express themselves, but also to share. We need to definitely share our experience and give our testimonies, because that is how others will be helped. So I'm just praying that this platform will be that catalyst to bring forth healing as well as information, and so that we could just be there for one another.
Yes, yes, I stand in agreement with you on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Ladybyrd. And so we can just wrap it up now. And is there anything else that you wanted to add?
Well, if anyone hears the broadcast and they have lost a loved one to the COVID, I just learned today that there is a Facebook group dedicated to the survivors of COVID patients, their family members. So I'm going to find that Facebook group for myself and see
Okay.
what kind of help they, assistance, comfort, comfort, and I don't know.
Maybe support, just
Yeah, just to be around other people that have gone through what you've gone through. I think that's basically what we need right now. Someone who really understands,
right.
not being able to visit your loved one, not being able to have a proper
Mm.
homegoing, you know.
I
It's
can't
just
fathom that. I can't fathom that.
So that's where I'm going to head. If anybody's listening, you can search out that Facebook group as well.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ladybyrd. And again, you'll be back on this platform. And to those who did come in, we thank you. And we'll try to schedule it next time, and so that more people will be aware. Okay, be blessed.